Hello again, another day, another hill fort, and today we are going to yet another castle law. There's a lot of them around the area actually, and this castle law is near Forgandenny, and somebody on Instagram mentioned this fort to me, and we actually wanted to go here for quite a while, but this person was helpful and cleared up the parking situation, so now we are here. And it's actually a lot steeper than I thought it was going to be. I don't know what I expected, honestly, but it's going to be somewhere up there. So yeah, please stay tuned for yet another hill fort tour. Now, if you want to visit the hill fort yourself and you have a car, we weren't able to go beyond a certain point, so we had to ask a local farmer where to park, and he instructed us to park next to the Glenairn farm building before you get up to the private road. So that's where we have parked. And you also get a beautiful view from here, actually off Moncrieff Hill, which has two more hill forts. Down there is where we were planning to park, but the gate was closed, so we had to ask the farmer for instruction. Where we've actually parked is somewhere there, and we came up straight from there. That's a bit of a new perspective for us, seeing things this way. We've got Mailer Hill that we sometimes go up, got Moncrieff Hill, and then behind that Kinnull Hill, the whole ridge there. Over there is Fife, and these are some of the hill forts that we visited the previous times. And Norman's Law will be somewhere over there. And then you've got Dundee right on the horizon there, and the Firth of Tay. So you can see Kinnull Hill in the background and Moncrieff Hill in the foreground. And here you have bits of the hill fort. So up there where the trick point is, and then the other one is right up there with the flat top. And then what's called Morden Top. So it's another hill fort. The little bump there, right in the center, is Dunsinen Hill Fort, which we also have done a hill fort tour of. So you can really see lots and lots of hill forts from this area. It's a pretty steep path. I do find it interesting that people are willing to live in such high up and steep places. So here we have a hill, which could be it, because it does have a bit of landscaping and rubble sitting on the top. But we're about to find out. Oh wow. We have the substantial remains of an older building. It must just be the remains of an old farmhouse or something. Coming up the side, and definitely does look a bit like ramparts. Got one layer there and one layer just above. It's kind of hard to see, isn't it? But now it gets easier. There we go. So the first thing that I notice is that it reminds me of Dunsinen Hill Fort. The way the ramparts are clearly defined. But this hill fort has also been excavated by Victorians right at the end of the 19th century. And they have laid bare the ramparts that you can see. And of course, that up there looks like a wall. So we have followed the path leading along the rampart, and there seems to be a way up to the top. You can see stones just underneath the grass, which could be part of an older wall. Here's more wall. And here you can really see the beautiful definition Ooh, we've got the showers coming in from that direction, so we better be quick. So here we have a little more landscaping, more ditches. And we have lots of wall left. I do have to say it was definitely worth coming up here. And here's a little structure which may indicate some kind of well. Lots of beautiful walls. Oh, that was not nearly it. So I think now we can see the very top, which is round about there. There you can see it again, Dundee and the coast of Fife. So what is interesting, you can see West Lomond, but you can't see East Lomond, which is slightly over there. But it's possible that these trees there are simply covering it up, and you might have actually been able to see it in the past. Ooh, this place is massive. You have even more structure going on in a parameter, and you have all these parallel lines going round in wide ovals. Now, they apparently misclassified this fort as a Roman fort, and then it turned out to be a Pictish fort, but I can really see how they would have made this assumption just because of how unusually structured it is and just how many parallel lines it has. Now, I was very excited to see this hill from above, and it was actually snowing slightly throughout the flight. This fort is about 280 metres high and overlooks the fields along the River Erne. Cultucher Hill sits right above it. It was excavated in 1891 and 92 by Edwin Weston Bell, who cleared the walls in 1891. Before that, they weren't particularly prominent. He had to do a fair bit of guessing and left a pile of rubble, which you can still see. Unfortunately, he didn't find a lot of material apart from pottery fragments, which made dating the hill fort a little difficult. More recently, in 2013, a few small trenches were opened to survey the area. The structure of the wall is fascinating. From the air you can see really well the long oval shape that the parallel walls are creating. There is an inner wall of about 5.5 metre thickness, enclosing a surface of about 55 times 25 metres. Then there is a second parallel wall of about 4.5 metres thickness. Both are connected at the entrance, and the space between the two walls has been interpreted as a space to keep cattle safe, while the people would stay within the inner walls. But there are also additional ramparts encircling a larger area. This fort has timber-laced ramparts, which are also known as the Abernethy type, referring to a hill fort above the village of Abernethy, which is also known as Castlellaw. And we have already done a hill fort tour of that one, and I would really recommend it. It was very interesting. It is about 6 miles to the east of this fort, and is very similar in structure. Archaeologists have identified multiple phases of occupation. There was at least one major phase of open settlement, characterised by 10 to 40 platforms for timber roundhouses on the terrace at the northern end of the wall. These are outside of the wall, however, they sit above a steep slope, so that probably would have provided protection. You can see them marked here as round shapes on the drawing. Then there was a final phase where people lived in a timber-laced fort right at the top, perhaps reflecting a need for protection. An assessment from 1965 associates damage to the fort with the campaigns of Agricola and Septimus Severus.
Castlellaw here near Forgandenny has a very commanding view over Strathearn, and also is higher than these other hills in Gowrie, and you can see over on the other side of the hills into Perth, and also over towards the Tay estuary as well. This Castlellaw is very similar in construction to the Castlellaw at Abernethy, which you can't see is on the other side of this hill. And the Australian archaeologist V. Gordon Childs noticed how the construction of these hill forts, as well as a couple of others in Angus, very closely resemble early Iron Age or Hallstatt era hill forts in Switzerland. That has some very interesting implications, because what it suggests is that in the early Iron Age, people from Switzerland were migrating to the east coast of Scotland. And from pottery evidence, this would suggest that they were joined by other people living along the Rhine in what's now Western Germany, Flanders, and the Netherlands. We don't obviously have any historical context for these migrations that were taking place, but what's clear is that people were coming from the continent, specifically to the east coast of Scotland for whatever reason.
So as the Victorians have excavated this, they've left all these pits behind. They've got all these interesting round shapes. There's one here, there's another one here. And I do wonder if there's something to do with perhaps storage, and maybe living spaces, people's houses. Seem to be a bit more there as well. So this very much looks like the entrance to the hill fort. And so here's a bit more, big chunk of wall. And a beautiful ditch, and we can now simply walk out the exit, even though we did kind of come up the steep end.
As we do sometimes.
Yes, sometimes it can't be avoided. But yeah, this hill fort is not only beautiful, but everything is pretty straightforward, I would say. The path on the way up was straightforward. The parking was, I guess, easier than expected. And the hill fort is beautifully clear. There seems to be this little annex just at the bottom of the fort with the wall surrounding it. You can see it down there. And then the top of the fort up there. So we are back at the foot of the hill fort, and this was amazing. I'm very glad that we came up to see the hill fort. It was beautifully preserved. Well, I would say it's been dug up. Thank you for coming along, and thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed a little tour of the hill fort. And hopefully you will stick around for more hill fort tours to come in the future. And of course, we have done so many hill fort tours already. And I can leave you a playlist in the description below. Yes, thank you. And see you next time. Down there, waiting for us to pay the toll. Here comes the snow.